Hello peeps, on this episode I'm going to talk about freelancing. It's a subject that I sometimes get asked by some of my friends and network just because it's not that straightforward, especially charging a freelance client in terms of whether you take on a job or not, whether it's going to affect your productivity at work or not. And you know that most freelance happens after work, which means it's that time after, I don't know, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., sometimes like midnight for some people, or over the weekend. So it's another set of commitment that people would take if they choose to. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that and give you some of my thoughts on what I think is the right way to do it. Okay? All right. Freelancing is not very easy because you have to deal with different types of people, pretty much like running your own business as well. Now, in this context, I'd like to talk about freelancing for yourself, not so much working for a specific representative or agent that would put you into different design studios for a certain period of time, right? So in this video, I'm talking about freelancing, whether it's a side hustle or really just helping a friend or a family member or wanting to carve your own way to building your own business, that freelancing is a path to it, okay? For the specific example as well, I'd like to talk about web design as a case study, because that's one thing that I'm most familiar with. I suck shit in everything else, just so you know, other than web design. But I guess what I'd like to talk to you about is some of the experience that I had myself being a freelancer, and I guess the things that I had encountered myself while having the goal of starting my own business as well. So hopefully some of these tips are helpful for you. To me, number one, the most important thing is for you to really know what are you trying to do with freelancing. So have a certain vision for it, whether you're doing this just for fun or whether you just wanted to experiment and allow yourself to experiment with other new technology or design style or things that work didn't really allow you to do. So know what is it you're trying to do with freelancing. That way, in the next few steps, you'll be able to determine whether you'd like to take on a job or not. Okay. So the second point that leads to that is really whether the job is right for you or not. It's very important for you to know why you should take on a job, because the impact could be long-term rather than short-term. So if you have a full-time job anyway, which means in terms of financially you're quite secured, then think about the type of work that you're trying to get from this freelance gig. Pick something that is going to interest you, or pick something out of your own passion, because then when money is not so important, then I guess that gives you a much more room to work on your creative freedom. And working with like-minded clients really does help as well, because then if you're on the same page and you're in the same vision, that's going to give you a lot more flexibility and a lot more, like I said, freedom to explore what you wanted to explore. So that will be a lot more fun for you to deal with, okay? Now, the third point is for you to understand whether you can be accountable to this job or not. Because once you take on a job, then obviously you're being held accountable for it to actually deliver the work, right? So think about the time. Like, do you have time to do this? Do you want to commit yourself over a certain period of time to complete this job for your client, your freelance client? That's going to be very important, because otherwise, relationships will be broken if you don't deliver. It's very important for you, like if you've decided to help someone or actually do it as a job that you're actually getting paid for, then it's very important for you to know up to what level do you want to commit yourself to this thing? If you know that you only have a certain amount of time after work and over the weekends, then upfront be very, very clear with them that this is the amount of time that you're willing to allocate for this job. Would that be okay for you? If that's okay, then that's great. Let's work this through together, okay? So, being accountable for what you're about to take is very important. Number 4 is for you to understand your own skill set, right? So if you're, like for me, for example, I'm more of a designer rather than a developer. So programming is not my forte really. So what I do in a freelance situation is I look for a freelance partner, whether it's someone who's a web developer or a writer or someone else who would complement my skills. So that's going to be important because again, if I'm taking website development as an example or website design, then you'll need to be able to deliver the whole thing. If you've decided to take on a project, that means you're not doing it half-heartedly. You got to do the whole thing and complete the job with the quality that you want as well, or your client wants. So it's very important for you to know what type of skill sets do you need in this job for it to be successful, so you can deliver it to the client. Okay. Number 5 is the question that I get asked the most is, how do you charge? So I think one of the most important thing is to know whether you're going to charge this project based on the hour, based on an hourly rate, or based on the project value or the asset value itself. But most of the time in a freelance situation, it won't be that case, but it's really either hourly or by the project. So let's just say, for the sake of the discussion, if the project budget is $5,000, then you'll know and you'll be able to work backwards from there. What are the things that you're able to complete within that budget? Oftentimes, though, in a freelance situation, clients won't really know how much they want to spend on a certain project. So the way to identify that is, first of all, you'd want to ask whether they have a budget in mind. But if they don't, then bring out a number that would be, your educated estimate or guess from your own experience from working full time. Or if you don't have any experience at all, then ask someone else who's done this before, and then you'll get some sort of a ballpark figure from there. So if you're, say, a junior, and then you'd like to charge between $25 to $40 per hour, then you're able to do that. Just calculate how much time you think it'll take you to do this based on the hourly rate times the number of hours that you're going to spend on the project. You'll get a rough estimate. One of the things that I like to do myself is give the clients a range of dollar figure, whether it's, say, $500 to $1,000 or $2,000 to $3,000. So give them a range and then openly ask them, how are they feeling about this range? Is there any specific budget in mind? Ask them again until they finally tell you how much is it that they're willing to spend, okay? So be very open about, the money talks up front, because then if you're expecting to be paid, then might as well ask them about the budget that they have and discuss about that openly. Number 6 is for you to stay as professional as you can. Because like it or not, if you're being paid for this gig, that means someone is expecting something out of you, and it's actually an actual transaction that you have to act as professional as you can. So whether it's a friend, a family, then being professional is even more so important, that you want to talk about this up front and say that, hey, we're going to do this professionally. So here are my terms. I'd like to bill you a deposit for, 20-30% upfront. That way I can cover my own cost at the beginning, and then when we complete the project, I'd like to charge you another 70% or something like that. And you can work out terms in your own ways. But it's very important for you to stay professional and act as professional as you can. That way there's less misunderstanding throughout the time. And when there's no misunderstanding, that means, the project could run a lot smoother than you think. Okay, so those are my tips, I think, from my own experience working as a freelancer. And over time, if your goal is really to, I think it's one or two things really, which is whether you want to start your own business, that freelance is a path to it, or you just like to do something else that is out of work. So you have to decide which path of freelancing you want to take. If it's more about building a clientele and like looking for extra cash, then I think the creativity side of things will come second, because you got to just take in whatever comes to you as an opportunity and then grab it, and then that will allow you to save money. Or when you're lucky, you'll get a project that actually works with your style and your passion and the things that you wanted to do. But if it's the latter, which is about just working on an experiment yourself, working on things that are less related to work in terms of the subject of the design itself, then don't think too much about the money, but work on, I guess, the ideas and the creativity that will allow you to do so. Okay? All right, so hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea, and hopefully that helps you as well throughout your journey. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.